Walking down the avenue.
Walking down the avenue.
A few more streets and we'll be through.
A few more streets and we'll be through.
Hi,
Here. What's up, Ducky? How you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Busting my ass, working and staying out the way of toxic ass energy. That's
Very
about it.
good. What are we cooking?
I ain't doing nothing special. Just hot dogs and hamburgers. That's it. I ain't doing nothing special because I'm doing an interview and I gotta concentrate. I don't want to be.
I don't concentrate that hard because you're just telling a simple story.
Yeah, I don't want ribs and salmon on the grill because I gotta keep my eye on it, and I gotta be doing the interview. I ain't trying to be doing all that. I just want to eat. That's all.
Okay, look, all right. So we started at 7:05. You all the way in the grill, girl. That I see you. Look, in the beard too. We on the same shit. Mm-hmm.
No, neither. This is juice.
Oh.
I ain't start drinking yet.
I got water on the same. Got a beard. Okay, so you can dick around. Let's get started, Sega. So, welcome
right.
to episode 5 of Walking Down the Avenue, in which I am interviewing my homies and people I know who have been involved in the Baltimore Club scene and culture and getting their stories so we can start to trace the history and all that good shit. You, my friend, are special in this because you are of Philadelphia. You are not of Baltimore, but you have been so influential to the club music culture, period, that I would be remiss if I did not include you in your stories as well. So
I
that being
appreciate
said,
it.
yes, absolutely. That being said, for those who don't know, tell us who you are. Tell us, the club music thing. How did you get started? Who are you? And why would I be talking to you?
I mean, different people know me from different things. My name is Rob. Everybody calls me DJ Sega the Black Knight Ear. I started making club music about 2004, fall of 2004, because I was mourning the death of my grandmother, and I needed a bit of an outlet. And I didn't have access to Baltimore club music at the time, and I was already a super huge fan of the club music game, so I knew certain songs and who they were by, etc. But it was just a hobby at first, and it turned into a hustle a little later on because people were asking me for my songs just to check them out, and I was just, getting feedback. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, they selling it, and they making money off of it. So I'm like, I might as well make money off my own music. So that's how it became a hustle. A couple years later, I started DJing at the skating rink in Philadelphia. It was called Wow when I grew up. But at the time I was DJing there, it was called Jam Skating Rink. And me and DJ D Square, shout out to him, we used to pack 1,500 kids in there every single weekend. And then they wearing like the Waldo type of rain, like socks and the beat glasses and the nightsticks and all that. It was pretty much like a rave for black kids.
Rave black kids. That's lit.
Yeah. Skating rink. A couple years after that, I was signed to Mad Decent as one of their first artists. And I represent. I mean, shout out to the squad, Brick Bandits. Not long after I was in the skating rink, I became one of the first artists to become part of the Jersey crew, Brick Bandits, outside of Jersey.
Right.
So, a little bit of everything. I mean, I spun at the Docks, the legendary Paradox, with K Swift, rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of everything. Just a little bit of everything.
So, you say you started making music in 2004. When you were doing this, did you consider what you were making club music? What are your influences as far as the music you started making first?
Well, definitely Baltimore Club. I mean, DJ Techniques, KW Griff. I mean, some of my earliest memories of club music is hearing Two Hype Brothers and a Dog, Doo Brown, and they used to play that on the radio on the weekend, mainly during the holiday seasons, because we used to get club music in like the early to mid '90s, but it was more of a secret, special primetime type of thing. Like we would never really hear it on a regular basis. It was only on like Memorial Day or Labor Day or something like that, where DJs would go live on the radio and they'll do their thing. A couple years later, by the time I was 12, I went to my first club, teen dance party and whatnot. And they was playing, the Dingling remix and the Put Your Leg Up remix and all kinds of stuff. It was really, really dope. Really, really dope. So,
Was that the first time you heard club music when you were at like that teen party? What was the first time you heard club music and you were like, oh shit?
That was the first time I experienced club music in the club, where you can feel the bass on the walls and underneath your feet, and the mids and the highs was like they were like kind of tap you on your cheeks a little bit. Like that's like you could feel the club music in the club or on a loud sound system. I was only familiar with the sound of club music, and for a little while, because I heard that Two Hype Brothers and a Dog for the first time when I was about 8 or 9 years old. So by the time I was about 12, I had no idea of I loved it because James Brown influenced breaks and whatnot, and I love house music. My family loved house music, so we was always music collectors. So I was kind of familiar with club music. I just never experienced it the way that I did that day in the club, and that experience is very necessary to get the entire vibe behind why club music is the way it is.
Okay, run that up a bit more for me. Why do you consider that? What is it about the club music that you feel as though it needs that sort of environment with it?
Ask that one more time.
What is it about club music that you feel as though in order to experience it fully, you have to be in that type of environment?
Well, between the bass, between how the bass works when it comes to club music and the pace of the energy of the music itself, between the timing of it, like when people ask me what I make and I have to describe it to them because they never heard Baltimore club music before, I usually tell them it's the tempo of house, it's the bass of hip hop, it has break beats in it, and whatever I want to sample. Baltimore club in the early stages were fight music and fuck music. So it was like music where you could channel your anger into it and take that out on the dance floor, or you could channel your pleasures and your desires and take that out on the dance floor as well. When Jersey Club came along, it was more of remixing that stuff as well as top 40 music. So I would be able to hear certain songs that would play on the radio, and they in Jersey would have certain remixes to them executed in a certain way. That would shout out to DJ Tamil and DJ Tim Dollar, and Mike V and the Brick Bandits. But to be able to experience all aspects of that in the club, like to have all of that just merged into one genre, when you experience that in your environment as opposed to just listening to it on the radio, or the closest you get to it is listening to it on super huge headphones, but even that, bass in your chest or in your legs, and that is very, very necessary as far as the true experience of club music, in my opinion.
What do you think, if someone were to ask you, what is the difference between Philadelphia club music and Baltimore club music?
The only difference is I'm from Philly, so me making club music, I like to pay homage to Baltimore, but also uh, keep it exactly where it is. So the fact that I love the sound and I'm able to execute quote Baltimore club music, but being that I'm from Philly, my environment and the city itself has its own bit of energy. You know,
Right.
i.e. Philadelphia International, Gamble and Huff. Shout out to the OGs, but that Philly soul aspect kind of comes out in my music. Sometimes it's done on purpose, but sometimes it's done by accident. But either way, it's because of my environment and how I grew up in the city I'm from. So that's why I call it Philly Club, because even if I was to remix the same song that Rod Lee would remix or DJ Technique would remix, it would feel a little different. So
Right.
to give proper respect to the original genre and the original sound of it, I like to separate myself, being that I'm from Philly, and that does have an influence on how I execute my production.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So you mentioned your first experiences with hearing the music at home. Tell me about your first experience here when you made it down to Baltimore and was able to experience Baltimore Club here in Baltimore. Tell me about that.
Well, K-Swift booked me for Memorial Day 2008, I believe it was, 2009. And I already knew about her, you know. I already knew about the docks, and I already knew about certain aspects of Baltimore Club. I just never experienced it being here. So when she booked me, it was me, her, and DJ the Kid. And we did the docks, and I was playing on that rotary mixer, but that super loud sound system. It was almost like going to the club all over again, experiencing it for the first time, except I was able to contribute an aspect of myself to what everybody else was experiencing on a regular basis. So for people in Baltimore to already be used to the sound and already used to certain dances and whatnot, for me to be welcomed into that and play my music and see them reacting, see K-Swift reacting and DJ the Kid reacting and the dances going off, it was surreal. It was very, very surreal to me, because it's like I go from being just a super huge fan of the sound and of the scene to being part of it.
Right.
Like a real part of it, not just being an outsider being in Philadelphia, just trying to do it. Like I'm being welcomed by the club queen herself, you know, into the game. So it's how I would feel about it. If I could sum it up all in one word, I was in awe. That's all.
Yeah. It's how many other things how many other places do you remember coming to besides the docks? Down here.
Rams Head. Shout out to Cullen.
Yeah, where's Cullen? He'll probably pop up in here.
There's the Crown. I spun at the Crown. I spun at what is it? Side Space?
Sidebar. Were you in Sidebar? Autobar? You've been in Autobar.
I've played in Autobar. I played in quite a bit of places in Baltimore. It's pretty dope.
Yeah. And of course the Depot. You can't forget that one, because that was the last time with me. The Depot's fun.
Absolutely.
So what is your preferred kind of place to play club music in? Hey Tigger, what's your favorite place? Like, do you think that club music is somewhere? Oh yeah, here's my good question for you. So you've been all over the place. You have taken your club music sound across the globe at this point.
Right.
No exaggeration. You've been able to play in, cities here. You've been overseas, and you've carried that club music sound with you. As far as all of the different places, what do you think the most ideal or like your favorite type of place to play in? Because you've played in festivals, you know what I mean, and been able to push that club music to that level. But then you're also naming places like the Docks and even other places that we have, the Crown and the Depot, which are smaller rooms. Do you think that these rooms affect how the club music is taken, or do you think that at that point in time, as long as it's loud enough, it's fine?
Um, I mean, I'm a sucker for quality, so I think it's yes, it's about volume, but it's also about the environment. And but it's also about who's playing it because so it depends on the DJ. Some DJs will play like the same 10 tracks that Philly are used to when they playing club music on the radio. But me personally, I love club music so much that I never really usually have a set playlist. I'm just exercising being able to play it and being able to enjoy it. And people around are just kind of also there to enjoy it. So it doesn't really matter where I play and it doesn't matter who I play for because they ultimately end up enjoying it, whether they're hearing it for the first time ever or they've been used to it so much and they missed good quality club music and have been able to experience that via my music. So I don't have a set location because no matter where I go, I make sure I do my thing and I make sure that people enjoy themselves and I make sure that they're very familiar with at least the sound aspect of the culture.
Right. One of the things about you that I've always found notable as a producer and a DJ is that you can sit and you could play an entire set of club music and only play your music. You have so much music. And it's with that being said, how does that in any way, shape, or form affect how you play music in terms of other DJs you see who, like me, I play everybody's music. I don't make so much music, but I'll play everybody's music, not for any particular reason, just as it's what comes up. But you, like, my God, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tracks, that I know of that you can sit and play through. There's somebody who is come out and is kind of one of the few to be able to do that. How do you think that you influence what's going on around you by playing that way?
Well, I play that way mainly when I'm doing like a set that people expect me to play my music, like usually when I'm like headlining or when it's like, a DJ Sega, the artist type of a gig. But like when I go live and I'm just playing just to play and just to hear some club music, I play everybody's. But I mainly play my music when I play it because there's a sense of the artist aspect of me that goes, okay, here's the sound that you may or may not be familiar with. Here's my signature feel on each and every one of these songs and an overall message that might be behind the entire mix. I tend to remix every damn thing so that way there's no matter what situation I'm in, I got a track for it. No matter who's in front of me, I got a track for them. Whether they've heard club music before or not, I got something that'll get them hooked,
So here, one of the things that we figured out through the interviews, again, you're the fifth one. All of us kind of decided and kind of came to the conclusion that in the Baltimore club culture, we kind of have three different worlds or three different realms in which we have the DJs, we have the producers, and we have the dancers. You know what I mean?
Right.
We have the music, we have the performance, and we have the utility.
Right.
By you, it always seems like that anybody who kind of becomes prominent and legendary and well known within the genre, they straddle a couple of lanes. No one is just one thing. So you're a producer and you are a DJ. What's the dancing like in Philly for you? Do you connect with the dancers a lot? Is it the same type of vibe? Because here, in case you don't know, I'm sure you know by now, the dancing here is the whole thing. A lot of people don't know Baltimore club music without knowing the dances and the battling and that
Right.
aspect associated with it. Is that the
Right.
same in Philly as well, or is it more of just a
Absolutely. I
free party?
mean, see, the thing that the main crucial part of my experience in experiencing club music, even growing up, were the dancers. Even in Philly, like there's always been Philly versus Baltimore battles, like since
Yeah,
I can remember. They've been happening repeatedly. Like we're lucky if we get one today, but we need one today more now than ever. And I'm not talking about something where it's set up out with by people outside of us.
right.
I am connected with Philly, with a lot of Philly dancers. In fact, they don't even know that they've helped shape my experience when it comes to club music, because when I used to go to the clubs, like, the Wow skating rinks, 923s, 1310s, they were always dancers around Philadelphia that would come out and they would do their thing. They would destroy club music and
Yeah,
reggae and dancehall and hip hop and shit like that. But they love them some club music. So even when I started producing, and even now, I keep them in mind. I make my music literally imagining these dancers fucking it up, like
hmm
destroying it. So I make that music with the dancers in mind, and the DJs as well, but mainly the dancers in mind.
that's really slick because so one of the things here about club music after when it Baltimore is experiencing something of a drought. You may know this, like we not in terms of content because there's a bunch of producers who are constantly churning out new club music every day.
Right,
But because of the loss of venues we've experienced recently, there's been something of a club music drought here in which there aren't, we don't have the docks anymore. We don't have Hammerjacks anymore. There's only a couple of places left that we can go to hear and experience club music being played in that way. Um, but the dancers, again, I mentioned those three worlds because the dancers have been able to keep it alive in sort of its underground form. Um,
right.
and that comes through
Shout
the
out to
battle.
Graffiti Alley.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying. You know all about it. Everything that happens through the Be More Than Dance group and the Graffiti Alley sessions and everything else that they've done. That's kind of how that stream has stayed alive for us.
Right,
When I was talking to Black Star the other day, in his interview, he mentioned how when he goes to Philly, there's still places for club music in Philly. And
absolutely.
when he goes to Jersey, of course, there's places for club music in Jersey. And
Right,
when he in these other areas, there are places that's like, yeah, this is where we're going. Um, that helps keep things alive in terms of reaching the mainstream people, not just
right.
the underground dancers. And so that long diatribe to say, um, being that Baltimore club music and club music, I'll just say club music for the sake of this because you are Philly, and it's
Right.
like even though again it's the same, but it's the not to me. Like it is so distinctly different. It's still.
Yeah, I call it all club music. I call it all club music.
But how do you feel the dancing solidifies or demystifies the underground look of it?
Because at the end of the day, the fiends need a fix. I mean, I kind of look at club music as a drug. I mean, but that's my own that's because of my personal journey with it,
Mhm.
going from a hobby to a hustle. There's a bit of a story behind that, but I kind of look at it like, okay, so even if I was to change the analogy and take it to church, right?
Okay.
People need their way of getting out their pain, celebrating their accomplishments or whatever they survived. People need a way to shout, and kids, believe it or not, uh, club kids, that's their Holy Ghost,
Yeah.
breaking out and doing the Tang and, just going in on the dance moves. That's our Holy Ghost, and club music are like our gospel music. So that energy to be able to, we need to maintain that. So especially the dancers, like, you know, everybody's been going through stressful times even more now. And to be able to get it out in a in a productive manner, as opposed to angrily, to you know, to take it out on certain things or in certain areas, or on certain people. I mean, sometimes all it takes is a good Rod Lee song to not get into a fight.
Yeah.
Or not get into
Honestly.
an argument, or to get out of a heartbreak.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Like, so yes, it's a fellowship. That's exactly what it is. And club music is our gospel. And when we dance, that's like our Holy Ghost. So to maintain that church, because the body is the temple, et cetera, all it takes for us is, and mainly the dancers, that's why they've been holding it down. Because at the end of the day, they got to dance their pain away. They need that. And they don't need no club to do it. They don't need anybody else's permission to do it. They could just put on a song and get it right out. So yeah, it's for them to gather around and be able to do that together. That's their church. This is our church. So that's why I think the dancers have been holding it down on the underground side of the game when it comes to maintaining the scene.
So some advice then, or rather searching for advice. So one of the issues here, not issues, but one of the themes of our story here in Baltimore with the club music is how club music has changed and evolved over the past few years. If you look at music from today, our club music from today, and go back 10 years ago, our music has, you know, sped up. It's become, you know, a little more, you know, cutthroaty, so to speak. But that is because the music I'm talking about now is music that's built specifically for our dancers. It is music for the shake off. It is music for our battle. We've heard reports that this can be a little alienating to our non-dancing friends. And it can scare them a little bit because they don't know how to shake off. They don't know how to, you know, do all of that. But do you think that, how do you then, do you contend with that? Does that ever cross your mind at all? Or is it because you're not here, I guess, kind of to see how that goes? Do you understand what I'm asking?
No, I understand exactly what you're asking. I never really looked at it from a sense of the dancers, because at the end of the day, if you could dance your ass off, you could dance your ass off. It doesn't matter if it's at 130 or faster than that. I think the difference between the old sound and the quote new sound, or the faster club music, is some dance. I feel like it's in terms of quality. There's some people that's just been doing it themselves with the knowledge that they have, and they've just been making do. So there hasn't really been anybody to coach them along to go, listen, there's club music that's made at 125 and 130 BPMs, and the DJ takes that song and speeds it up to anywhere between 135 to maybe pushing it to 140. And so when you hear mixtapes, it's that fast for that reason. It's not like the songs are made at that speed. It's not like, and it's damn sure not that predictable. In my opinion, there's been a lot of a club music, whether it's Baltimore, Philly, or Jersey, that's where some aspect of it has been super predictable. Club music, in my opinion, is what makes it fun is that it's not predictable. You don't know what the drop is going to sound like, or sometimes when it's going to come. So it just tends to be, I think, an issue of quality and taste, and then ego. I think that those are the three aspects that kind of make that difference between who sounds like what and why. because some people, they may do it what they have and they never had a teacher. And then when a teacher tries to come along and go, listen, this is, I see potential. Some people could say that they see potential in them, or they could just straight up say that they're doing it wrong. But either way, to tell somebody that's gotten to a certain point or a certain position, that they might have to, learn some more layers behind their production, they might take that as harsh criticism that they can't swallow. So there tends to be a bit of a divide between the folks that are used to the sound of club music as it is, where it's fast, but it paced itself. It's unpredictable, with the folks that where it's really, really fast. The sounds are very, very, in my opinion, overused. I mean, it's like if one club song come out and it's a banger, all of a sudden a bunch of producers will go, I want to make a song just like that, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
As opposed to going, that's a dope song, I'm inspired to make a dope song of my own. So like the way Technique and Riley used to go back and forth in the days, where Technique might make Dingling and Riley might make Mind Your Business as an answer, and they would just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm not 100% on those stories, but it's about bouncing energy off of each other. Even if you don't know the producer, never met the producer, that love for club music is what binds you. So from a producer aspect, to go, that's dope, that's a dope song, I'm inspired, and then to take that energy and make your own, I think is part of what's missing, because again, the predictability and the same samples and it being too fast to the point where you can't really catch the cleverness of it, if it even exists in the song.
Right.
So, yeah.
What's my next question? Let me think. See, you're giving me like all this good in-depth, like, this is the producer as undercut. Huh? Let me see. So, what do you think was the moment? Oh yeah, here we go. All right. So you started making music in 2004. That's 16 years ago. And look, so you've been on this boat for a long time. It's safe to say this is what it is, and this is where you're going to be. At what point in time did you know in 2004 when you started making music? Club music had kind of already gotten to its point. Like by 2004, we all knew who Black Star was. We all had, again, Riley was everything, Techniques, Scotty B. Like we had our core music, and I call it's kind of club music's teenager years. Remember, club music itself was only about 30 years old. It's about our age. So in 2004, we had gotten out of adolescence. Did you have any?
Damn near 40. There's a whole generation before the generation. Like there's a generation before.
It breaks down. One day I'm gonna, through this project, one of the things I want to do is like actually break down what are the generations of our club music, because we've gone through a couple by now. Our music has evolved a couple times since the late 80s, when we first got started. But what do you consider? Oh, wait, I lost the thought again. About it. No, in terms of that, did you know that club music would go the direction and the speed that it did? Club music became, as you know, extremely, extremely influential in several mainstream aspects, and you can even see how club music was carried to the success worldwide, even through your ventures with Mad Decent. Did you have any idea that club music would become as kind of influential and popular to the whole world.
Damn right I did. I did the whole time. I took look in about 2004, right? Matter of fact, this was 2005 actually. I was already like quite a few months into making like a bunch of tracks, and I felt it. I had like a bit of a vision, and now at the time hip hop was like the Laffy Taffy days.
Right.
I was I dead ass told my parents because they was getting on my nerves. I was graduating high school, and I told them, I'm like, they was up my ass about getting a job and going to school and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, listen, y'all don't know, but hip hop, as bad as it is now, it's gonna get even worse.
Oh yeah.
And the only thing that's gonna be able to save it will be club music. And I'm talking about the sound of it, the feel of it, and the economy that it can create. Because again, people always used to get on my damn nerves about why I did remixes and how am I supposed to make money off of it. And I always had a bit of a vision about this whole thing, because everybody knows about Tom's Diner, but they don't know the history behind Tom's Diner. I call this my Tom's Diner theory. Tom's Diner, that song that goes originally that was an acapella. Right. It was just some lady that went to a diner in New York. She sat down, she recorded what she saw and what she experienced. Right. A couple UK DJs, if I'm not mistaken, took that acapella and put a beat behind it and made a remix, and they released it without the permission of the original copyright owners. Right. So when original copyright owners got a hold of that remix, they liked it. They liked it so much they wanted to release it as the original. So the song that we all know of today that has the beat behind it is actually a remix. Not the original. Right. And that happened a lot in the 90s. Say that again?
I said that happened a lot in the 90s.
Right. And I feel like it can happen again, and there's no reason as to why that can't happen with club music. So I believe that, yes, there's going to be a time where nobody will be able to put out a single without it being a maxi single. I'm from the maxi single era. So, you get one song and you get a bunch of remixes. I feel like that's going to be the economic system that allows club music and to grow again, and for hip hop to resurrect itself. Because again, in club music, we have aspects of hip hop that exist, elements of hip hop. We have the DJ, we have the dancers, and the culture itself around club music, it has its own element of it being a new hip hop, so to speak, so that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, I've always known that it was going to keep hitting peaks in the mainstream. I just wanted to make sure and hope and pray that it would be done the right way. And, don't put it in my hand, because I'll do it my way.
What is the right way? Do you think then that the music industry, because the music industry also, while music itself is evolving and club music is evolving, and hip hop is evolving or devolving, as you might think, depending on how you want to look at it, technology has never stopped moving. Right. It never stopped. It never slowed down, and it's not going to. That has had undeniable effects on music and how it is released and stuff, like how the business goes. Do you think then that the music business industry is one of our then biggest enemies? Because a lot of people, there's a lot of music here, and one of the stigmas and one of the sore spots is that Baltimore hasn't gotten kind of the credit it deserves based on that, based on how much influence it's had on the world. It's Baltimore, and Baltimore club music is still kind of treated as this little underground, the redheaded stepchild type situation. Right. And a lot of that comes from, the music business. Right. People haven't figured out how to break into the music business lane, so to speak. And a lot of that arguably comes from the fact that we do make remix and sample based music. So then it becomes, okay, well, how do we get these cleared? How does this and that happen? Blah, 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 blah.
First of all, the music industry could kiss my black ass because all they do is steal and fucking trade. I mean, there's not one new melody in the world. I ain't gonna say no names. I should. Happy anniversary. But I ain't gonna say no names. But a motherfucker kept asking me. Motherfucker kept asking me about why I keep making remixes because it's sampled and there ain't no way I'm gonna make money. Meanwhile, this same motherfucker is stealing tracks. What the hell, Tigger?
You do sound like Dave Chappelle. Look, right, say the names if we need to say the names, because that to me, it's not even on some, you're not talking about nobody, you're just talking about what happened. These are actual, especially for your specific, story. But that's one of the things we've had seemingly issues when it comes to breaking into quote unquote mainstream regular things. And then we've had instances where, music has gotten ran away with, music has been stolen and released overseas under someone else's complete name. But like we could, like you said, we could get into the specific stories about that and name specific names, but perhaps we don't wish to hurt feelings today or whatever the case is. But that, to me at least, has been one of the biggest stepping stones, that we have just continued to stumble over. And it's like, do you think that there's a way, what way do you think then Baltimore club music and Philly club music can continue to grow and evolve without having to go through those steps, but receive the same sort of benefit from it without being directly involved? Because it doesn't work. Like I say a lot, Baltimore is like Africa. Everybody comes, takes, leaves, type of situation. And it feels like that a lot with the club music as well.
Well, I believe that it's like that with all aspects of Black culture.
Right.
But more specifically, and speaking of Baltimore Club, there has been people that's definitely come in Baltimore taking a sound or taking aspects of the culture and ran off with it, so to speak. Right. I'm not one of those people because I will tell the motherfucker first and foremost, Baltimore Club music came first, then came Jersey Club, and then came my black ass. So in the sense of paying homage and giving respect to the culture, I feel like it's definitely gotten its shout outs in some mainstream aspects, i.e. The Wire. I was stoked when Technique announced on BaltimoreClubMusic.com back in the day when I was in high school that he directed co-directing the 2 episodes of The Wire, and I that was like the first episode I sat up to watch, and then binge watched the rest. But to pay homage to Baltimore, it shouldn't be that fucking hard because there's so many aspects there's so many aspects of Baltimore Club that trickles down into a lot of the music industry as a whole. I mean, shout out to Missy and Pharrell and a lot of other folks that's used that's kind of tried to do their own version of club music in the mainstream aspect. Shout out to DJ Class for that. I'm the Ish, because that's the original song, and then there were the multiple remixes featuring a lot of different people, the Lil Jons and the Jermaine Dupri's and Trey Songz remix and the Kanye West remix. That's what I'm talking about when I say I think that honestly the only thing that's going to be able to save hip hop, the music industry, and all of us when it comes to an economic base is club music. Because it's already got a strong foundation with the way it sounds because it's very tribal. I mean, it hits you right in the heartbeat. So, I mean, I feel like that's the savior of all. And people know that. It's just people that behind the business aspect of it don't know how to handle it because they're so fucking robot-y. Like, this is like calling a customer service, and they're so used to reading some kind of a script and going by the script that they don't know how to talk to you like a human being. Like, okay, I understand that there's instead they go by the script as opposed to off the script, you know, to customize the experience to make it personal. So I think that's where the music business aspect of the industry and of club music kind of falls short when it comes to understanding how club music as a business can work. I don't think they're prepared for it. You know.
What do you think? If they're not prepared for it, then is there a point in pursuing it, or is it one of those make them just wait? Black Star's retort to that, his whole thing was, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
And he was essentially like, we'll just do it regardless. And if it comes to that point, because he used the narrative of his personal story in which he didn't have to go through the trouble of chasing down DJs to play their music or bothering the radio stations to play the music. It ended up the other way around. People, they came to the station like, where is this Black Star song? So the stations then had to find him. And he said,
the Fiends.
Right. And he said, you know, from that, essentially, that's where his mindset on it was built, because it was like, oh, nah, if you have something that is what it is and people love it, and we already know that the people love it, then at a point in time, it'll be up to these other outlets to reach out and come and take it from there. But that hasn't exactly happened. It has, but it hasn't. And again, when it does, it usually ends up compartmented in, you know, in small blips of a moment.
There's a reason behind that. That's because while the real artists and the real producers were being sought out by the industry, it was how they were being sought out by the industry. Because yes, they would get agents and managers and labels that will contact them, but they will also get other DJs and other artists and other producers that will contact them. And when you get other artists and producers contacting the real OGs in Baltimore Club, they're either there to get the drug or the process behind how you make it, not really to kind of help you build a business. They're kind of coming to you for information. So the label aspect is different than the other artists coming out that, you know, there was there was already a divide in the club music when it started to hit a peak around 2008 or 9, because again, people were getting signed because of the club music that they made. You know, we were traveling around the world, and we was exposing the rest of the world to the sound and to some aspects of the culture. It's just, I don't know. It's just the business aspect of it. It's kind of split down the middle, because again, you got the labels that are just curious, but they don't know how to handle the business. And then you got the producers and the artists that are curious about it, but they just want the information so they could try to make it themselves. So that's no different than somebody coming into Baltimore, checking it out, taking what they can and bouncing. Right. You know? So there was a lot of that going on. So you have artists that are familiar with the information of club music as opposed to being in the culture of club music. And everybody in between it's a bit of a blur to see who's who, because you see a bunch of, white DJs and producers all of a sudden playing club music and making club music or variations of club music. And then it gets harder for the DJ Boomans or the Black Stars of the culture to get their just due, because they're not they're not quote marketable. We'll just say that.
How important do you believe club music is to Black culture?
Again, I mean, even if I feel like it's, I mean, we love the drums. The drums is what makes our heartbeat. I mean, every aspect of club music can hit a different aspect, like hit a different chakra in you. So it's incredibly important, even if we don't know that it is. We know, we can feel in our spirit that it is when we hear the music, and it's good quality, and it makes you want to move, and it motivates you.
Right.
That's how we feel that it's important. Do we consciously know that it's important as a collective, and like Black people in general? Not necessarily. I don't think that's like a conscious piece of knowledge any more than people thinking that, let's say, New Orleans bounce music, or their own local way, that their own local sound and their own local culture, that is their own local way on getting out their pain or celebrating their pleasures. So I think that club music stands at the peak of that because of the pace. It's at I make my shit at 130 average, and I feel like that's like the perfect pace for club music because it's not too fast, it's not too slow, and it's motivating. It's a motivating pace. So no matter what you hear that I'm flipping, it's something that could get you going.
Right.
So whether you're exercising or you driving from A to B and it's a long trip, or you getting ready to go into a boxing match or play a football game or anything like that, it's a motivating pace. So even if we don't consciously know that it's an important genre, we feel it when we hear it.
Right.
So, that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Let me see. As something that I learned just now, well, not just now, in this interview about you, is where you consider yourself in the timeline of how club music grew, in terms of, we have Baltimore club music, we have Jersey club music, we have Philly club music. How do you feel about the way that you're kind of then a stepchild of both? You were inspired through Baltimore club music, yet you found, a lot of your way then, I guess, through your early days with Brick Bandits from Jersey. Shout out to all of them. I love Brick Bandits so much. Every single one of them. I wouldn't be a DJ if it wasn't, because of a couple of them, honestly. And they've been so supportive. So it's like you are a child of club music, of Baltimore and of Jersey. You're very unique in that. Do you think that is what birthed the Philly club sound, or is that innately you?
I feel like it's a bit of both. I mean, there was really not any Philly club prior to me coming along. I mean, there were a couple of DJs and producers that were in Philly trying to make club music, but they were more or less taking kind of like Rod Lee songs and making edits. So I wouldn't really count that. But yeah, I feel like the Philadelphia environment, plus my knowledge and love of Baltimore club music and how far they took it originally, and then my love for Jersey club and how far they took it with theirs and pushed the envelope. I feel like that information and knowledge and love for that in me, plus my Philadelphia environment and the Philadelphia soul aspect, the Philadelphia International Records and the Gamble in the House and all of that aspects and influence, plus my two parents being music lovers and music collectors themselves. I think that's all, yes, it's part of me, and I spill out into my music. My music is more of a My music is more of a kind of journal entries. Like each song has a story to it. Because again, it was a hobby and an outlet because I was mourning when I started making club music. I was mourning the death of my grandmother. I didn't have anybody to talk to and everybody were, kind of leaning on me emotionally, and I didn't have anybody else to lean on, and the only thing I did have was club music. And ironically, I started making it myself. So that kind of is just me. But I guess because I coined it Philly Club, because again, with all respects going to Baltimore Club, I don't want to take that name and say that what I make is Baltimore Club. Same thing for Jersey Club. With their sound and their feel and their environment has very much influence on how they produce their club tracks and the energy that comes out into it. I'm a bit of a silly, goofy dude at times, and that shit comes out in my music. And I tend to think that a lot of us club kings, or a lot of the club kings, tend to have a little bit of that in all of us. So that tends to come out in the music as well. I.e., how and why would DJ Techniques make Dingling, the Dingling remix? Or how or why would DJ Tamil or DJ Tim Dollar make a song remixing the "Why You Answer the Phone, bitch? Why you answer the phone?" It wasn't just music. It was movie skits and commercials and all kinds of shit that we would take and flip and make it danceable and something that you could actually feel from, something you didn't know you could feel from. Like, it could be an Alvin and a Chipmunk song.
Right.
The dope beat behind it, and with dope chops, and it's executed a certain way where it's unpredictable and you don't know how it's going to drop, but it sounds incredible. I tend to think that I like to make sure that my songs have all the rules on what made me love club music in the first place. Because if it's my music and I can control how I make it feel, then that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna make it predictable. I'm not gonna make it familiar or anything like that. The closest you're gonna get to any kind of aspect that's familiar is the sound of the genre itself. So if DJ Sega from Philly is playing a DJ Sega track, they go, "Hey, that sounds like Baltimore Club." That's the closest you get to it. Like two of my songs back to back won't sound alike. There's a lot of that going around where you can't play a bunch of producer songs back to back as artists because they all their tracks sound exactly the same. They drop exactly the same with the same exact sound effects and sound kits that they choose to use. I like to make sure that I'm not a statistic. That's me as a person. So yes, that's going to come out in my club music as well. I don't like to be a statistic. I'm a 1 in a million type of dude, and I like to make 1 in a million type of accomplishments. So yeah.
All right, so check it. We're just about hitting the hour mark. I'm gonna let you decide. Do we wish to talk some more, or have we talked enough?
Oh, well, let everybody that knows me tell it. They be like, that motherfucker could talk for about 3-4 hours.
No, we could talk for 1,000 years. You gotta go check on your hot dogs.
Oh, they all right. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is it's 8:04 and we about to get cut off. Right. I'm gonna let this phone charge up a bit, and you mind if we link back up on here in about 30 minutes or so?
We can try that for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, so yeah, commercial break. Again, everybody who's tuned in so far, thank you. You're on episode 5 of Walking Down the Avenue with DJ Sega of Philly. We're gonna shut up. We're gonna take a little phone chargy break and hot dog break and roll another blunt break, and we'll be back after you scroll your timeline some more.
Thanks, Ducky.
Love you.
Love you too, Ducky. Peace.
Hey, you knuckleheads.
Hey, you knuckleheads.
Walking down the avenue.
Walking down the avenue.
A few more streets and we'll be through.
A few more streets and we'll be through.
Sandtown, North MP, Park Heights, RNG, White Lock, Cherry Hill, North Long and Dole.